Folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the top 10 new games of the Game Awards 2020. At number 10 is Evil West, which is a American frontier era vampire hunting game. The trailer is extremely stylish, and although it's a pre-rendered trailer and isn't gameplay, it gives us an extremely good idea as to what exactly they're trying to do. And we're talking about a very gory, over-the-top, honestly, game that I think kind of fits in with mid to late 2000s era games. And I really like that. I really wish that there was more games trying to do that nowadays. And what's cool about it is it works on retelling certain myths and legends. I don't know exactly what yet, but I like the sound of it. And honestly, I like what it looks like. The aesthetic is very cool. It's a neat looking game. If it has any of the momentum the trailer has, the game itself will be fantastic. And number 9 is Tchia, an open world sandbox based physics game which looks to borrow a ton from Breath of the Wild, as well as even Super Mario Odyssey. This is a game that is inspired by the island nation of New Caledonia, and intends to absorb a bunch of the culture and sort of give it to us as a game. But there is a lot more at play here, I think, than just story. Like, mechanically, this looks like it takes a lot of the stuff from Breath of the Wild to a logical extreme. There's a lot of traversal options here, and it's very physics-oriented, which looks very cool. There's also a possession mechanic, that's why I mentioned Super Mario Odyssey. I don't know if I would say it's one-to-one the exact same thing. You can actually possess inanimate objects, which could be fairly cool, but I also pretty much don't understand the story they're attempting to tell yet. I don't think they've revealed a whole lot. Certainly the trailer doesn't, but I think it's definitely got a lot of potential, and I will definitely be keeping my eye on it as development progresses. At number 8 is Century Age of Ashes, which I have to say, dragon fighting game. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean like two dragons doing Mortal Kombat. What it actually means is a dogfighting game in which you're riding a dragon and are using various dragon powers to beat the other people riding dragons. And yes, I am completely there for this. Sign me up. I'm sold. If they don't botch it, that's great. There's not a lot of game trailers that show us such obvious gameplay at this point. Like, most trailers are some kind of pre-rendered thing nowadays and show you some concept of what the game looks like. This was obviously gameplay. But I feel, just from watching that I have a very good idea of what this game is going to handle like, and that, to me, is awesome. Especially considering the game itself looks fantastic. Like, it looks like there's a really deep emphasis on momentum. Like, there was some areas where I saw the dragon moving in a way that implied physics are going to play into this. I initially wanted to say, like, kind of like 360-degree Panzer Dragoon or Panzer Dragoon without rails, but I'm kind of getting a more versatile Ace Combat feel from it, and honestly, I'm there for it completely. That just sounds great. It's hitting early access in February, actually, so I will be checking it out. And number 7 is Open Roads, a game from the developers of Gone Home and Tacoma that looks to really build on their narrative formula. Obviously, Tacoma is a very different game from Gone Home, but this looks to kind of really go over the top on a lot of the things that neither of them had, which was much more tangible characters. Like, there is a cast, for instance. There's not one person looking into stuff that used to happen. There are two characters that will obviously interact with each other on an ongoing basis. They are still very much investigating past events. However, it's framed as a mystery that is taking place in the present, which might actually go somewhere now, which I also like. That makes it a little bit different from both Tacoma and Gone Home, but it is also extremely early. We don't know a lot about what's going on in this game. We do know that it stars Caitlin Dever and Kerry Russell, and apparently the story leads them to some pretty dark places according to the official description. Should be interesting. Don't have a release date yet, but it is intriguing. And number 6 is the Callisto Protocol, and let's just go ahead and say this one comes out of the gate swinging. This is a game from the Dead Space creator and is set in the universe of PUBG. That's right, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, the Battle Royale game. Now, just so you're aware, if you haven't been playing that game, it has gotten increasingly, like, backstory oriented. Like, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, the actual backstory is about a multi-billionaire organizing various fights to the death for mercenaries to participate in. But Callisto Protocol is taking us to one of Jupiter's moons, a ways into the future, the year 2320, so a couple centuries from now. There are more than a few connections to Dead Space games in this trailer, and of course the very obvious stuff, the possible energy bar on this guy's back neck, and the fact that the monster looks kind of like a necromorph in some ways. I don't know, I'm really excited for this because Dead Space didn't go exactly where we all hoped it would go, and well, this could be the road to redemption as far as that type of game goes. I am really excited for this, actually. At number 5, Perfect Dark, which, oh my god. I mean, there have been rumors about a new Perfect Dark for a while now, but I honestly didn't expect it to really happen. Perfect Dark was, of course, Rare's follow-up to GoldenEye, because you only get the James Bond license once or twice, I don't know, James Bond title pun. But Perfect Dark is a really interesting game that builds on the mechanics of GoldenEye very well. GoldenEye, of course, being like the thing that popularized shooters on consoles. Perfect Dark being a very complex, interesting world built upon that engine. I don't know whether this is going to be a reboot of the series in which we see Joanna Dark come back and solve a mystery. I don't know. Could be a reboot, maybe not, maybe a sequel, maybe a prequel. Maybe somehow it will be all of them. But I gotta say, I'm extremely excited to see this. There hasn't been a new Perfect Dark since 2005, and I will be waiting for more info with bated breath. At number 4 is Season, a game that I'm seeing tons of people hype as like the next Journey, which I am a huge fan of Journey. Journey is a very different type of game where there's a lot of interesting things to overcome, and there is a narrative, but it's not really a narrative in the traditional sense. It's sort of a visual narrative. Fantastic game. Beautiful score, beautiful graphics, and this kind of looks like it follows in those footsteps. However, this does go ahead and add dialogue to the mix. There is going to be spoken word in the game, and there's also a bicycle, which should probably change up the dynamics quite a bit. I have a feeling the world is quite a bit larger than Journey's world, and it'll probably be a longer game from the looks. Visually, I mean, this is an outstanding looking game. It's so pretty looking. There is apparently a mysterious cataclysm that will wash everything away, that you have to collect artifacts and memories before this happens. It doesn't mention whether you can prevent this or not. I have no idea, but I suppose if they told us something like that, it might make the game pointless. I can't tell you whether this is going to be the next Journey. Like, that's a lot to live up to, but I can tell you, wow, it looks cool. At number 3, it is Evil Dead, the game, a co-op shooter based on Evil Dead, of course. In a lot of ways, it does resemble Left 4 Dead, but given it is a big franchise like Evil Dead, I think there's some interesting stuff here, but also the developer is the developer who made World War Z, which was an actually pretty good title in its own right. Similar to Left 4 Dead in some ways, but dealt with horde mechanics that made it markedly different. I'm not really 100% sure exactly what we're getting here. I will say there are obvious Left 4 Dead vibes, and it does look over the top and cartoony as the franchises want to do, albeit with an actual cartoon style here. I think it could be really good, but of course, we want to see more before we say more. At number 2 is Ark 2, which I don't know where to start with this. If you remember Ark, it was a game that did go through a bit of a storied development. Ended up being a pretty cool game. Again, some problems. But Ark 2 stars Vin Diesel. Yeah, I don't know what exactly to make of that. It does seem as though this game is going to feature more of a narrative and is part of a bigger universe project featuring other big-name actors like David Tennant, Elliot Page, and Russell Crowe. Vin Diesel's character Santiago is also part of this animated series, and, well, I mean, it could have a lot of potential. We need a dinosaur hunting series, frankly. There's not enough dinosaurs in media. And finally, at number 1 is the next Mass Effect game. Now, this seems to take place directly after Mass Effect 3, so probably the main problem about Mass Effect Andromeda, aside from the faces, is remedied here. It's going to feature characters we know doing potentially something that matters, rather than sort of wandering around a galaxy looking for a home. That's not really that much of a game. especially when it's supposed to have a narrative and all of that. This version of a Mass Effect sequel seems like it might be a way better idea. I'm also willing to give them another go, but if they mess up this, I mean, I'm excited. We did get to see Liara in the trailer, so that's a good thing, but we also have yet to really know what it's about. Couple of quick bonus announcements for you. These were games that were announced elsewhere, but we saw more of at the Game Awards. First is It Takes Two, a two-player platforming game that looks to have a ton of potential in terms of actually progressing two-player mechanics in a modern platform genre game. And second, Flight Simulator is coming to Xbox. Now, that's going to be cool as hell because Flight Simulator is awesome. And to play it on a console is kind of, yeah, just something a lot of people always really wanted. Dragon Age. This is very much a continuation, although it does definitely also look a lot more stylized, but I am certainly looking forward to seeing where it goes. Then there's Back 4 Blood, which the original Left 4 Dead developer is making a spiritual successor. That is, of course, something I am specifically looking forward to. It is Back 4 Blood. Now, if you're wondering why a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead is something that we care a whole lot about, it's that the developer is Turtle Rock, the original developer of Left 4 Dead, when the game was published under Valve way back when. Now, for me, that is particularly exciting on account, yes, anybody could make another Left 4 Dead game, but not potentially to the extent the original developers of Left 4 Dead could. Back 4 Blood, great name too. We know exactly what the game is about. I don't need to tell you what Left 4 Dead is other than it's a co-op zombie shooter. It's the best one. It's revered for good reason. And frankly, I can't wait to play a new Turtle Rock game in the series. Not that they've bothered making any other ones since Turtle Rock stopped making them, but still,